Welcome to this explainer on Thomas Alethea's book, 12 Steps to a Good Life. Today we're going to unpack a pretty harsh reality about modern hustle culture. You know the drill. We're constantly told that to succeed, we just need to push harder, work longer, and never, ever give up. But what if the very thing we're relying on to reach our goals is actually the exact thing destroying our peace of mind? So let's just jump right in and question one of the most universally praised buzzwords out there. Is grit actually ruining your life? I mean, it sounds amazing when we talk about it, right? It feels empowering. We see it slapped on motivational posters, we hear it in every keynote speech. But when we really look closely at grit as a personality trait, it's not always pretty. And according to the source material, it is never easy. In fact, the source material gives us this really stark, realistic warning. It describes toxic grit as this relentless grind that leaves you exactly like this quote says, a sweaty, panting, struggling mess. It's this dangerous mindset where achieving the goal becomes literally the only thing that matters, which completely blinds you to all the collateral damage you're causing along the way.
All right, Section 1, the myth of grit, or the cultural trap.
Here's the crucial point. Think about two people working side by side. They might both look like they're working incredibly hard, but their internal experiences could be total opposites. One person is motivated by growth, right? They want to improve and expand, but the other person is driven by what Aletheia calls deficiency motivation. That means it's rooted in fear, pain, and this desperate need to prove their worth. If your grit is fueled by deficiency, that translates straight into anxiety. You aren't actually running toward a goal, you're just running away from failure. And that person, they are heading straight for burnout.
Moving on to Section 2, the sweaty, struggling mess, the reality of the grind.
When grit really takes over in a bad way, it morphs into this frantic, fear-based energy. Toxic grit just tends to endlessly grind and push forward, no matter what. It completely disregards all so-called non-essential concerns. And spoiler alert, that usually includes your personal well-being, your relationships, and your mental health. It makes crossing that finish line the absolute only thing that matters. Basically, your health and your core values get sacrificed for the sake of an arbitrary goal.
Now, you know what's really fascinating here? How the author redefines perfectionism. We so often pair perfectionism with grit. We wear it like a badge of honor, especially in job interviews, right? But Aletheia actually defines it as a destructive fear, rather than some noble high standard. Perfectionism is absolutely not a gift. It's an intense fear of failure that literally paralyzes and stupefies you. It drains all the energy and joy out of doing things you actually love and plants this heavy seed of doubt that can stop you from doing anything at all.
Which brings us to Section 3, motivation versus true commitment.
There's a massive contrast we need to talk about here. Motivation is, honestly, a super unreliable emotion. It ebbs and flows just like happiness or sadness. Aletheia shares this powerful story about being in the army on a brutal obstacle course. Another soldier, who was just as motivated as anybody else out there, slipped and got seriously injured. All that motivation meant nothing in that moment. One single piece of bad luck derailed the whole thing. The takeaway? Motivation can vanish in a split second. True commitment, on the other hand, is an action based entirely on character and values. It demands self-discipline and consistency, no matter how tired you feel on a random Tuesday morning.
See, true commitment isn't just a catchy phrase on a motivational poster. It is a very serious promise. By definition, it restricts your freedom of action, and it always exacts a price. When you genuinely commit to something, you are fully acknowledging a real cost, whether that's time, money, or your own comfort. Outside pressures might coerce you into doing things, sure. But if you catch yourself using words like I should or I have to, you aren't actually committed. Real commitment means having the courage to pay the price and, most importantly, recommit when you inevitably stumble.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, taming the 800-pound gorilla, the unconscious mind.
I absolutely love this analogy. It brilliantly illustrates the immense, stubborn power of your unconscious mind. The quote goes, "Your conscious mind rides on the shoulders of an 800-pound gorilla, and the gorilla goes exactly where it wants to go." It's so true. You can make all the conscious logical commitments you want, but until you actually get that 800-pound gorilla on board, nothing changes. It's because your conscious desire to be productive is in a constant tug-of-war with this inner trickster. Just imagine these two characters living in your head. You've got the rational decision-maker who wants to plan ahead and act responsibly. But then you have the instant gratification monkey who just wants immediate comfort and hates effort. And let's be real, the monkey has an incredible talent for distracting you.
This is exactly why white-knuckling your way through a goal with pure grit almost never works. The monkey will always win the second your willpower runs out.
Okay, so how do we fix this? Section 5. A healthier path forward. The path to true resilience.
To replace that frantic, exhausting grind, the author gives us this amazing holistic system called the 5 parts of doing. First, it starts with you, meaning your habits and your values. Then comes time, which you have to treat as a finite resource. Next are tools, the systems you use to reduce friction in your life. Then engagement, which is actually doing the work even when it sucks. And finally, living virtuously, which ties the whole shebang together. This framework creates a balanced energy that connects your daily productivity to a higher ethical purpose, rather than just blind, mindless achievement.
But how do you actually trick that giant gorilla into moving the right way? Mini habits. You do this by breaking massive, intimidating projects down into ridiculously small tasks. Seriously, if you can't clean the whole house, just clean one corner. If you can't do all the dishes, wash literally one plate. By isolating a tiny task and sticking to the absolute minimum consistent effort, you sneak right past the instant gratification monkey. Your unconscious mind doesn't feel threatened by washing a single plate, so it doesn't trigger that massive wall of resistance. You start building real momentum without having to rely on toxic grit.
Because here's the secret. Little wins pave the way for bigger wins. 1% beats 0% every single time. By developing some self-compassion and actually celebrating these tiny, consistent wins, you condition your brain to genuinely enjoy positive change. That is how you build true resilience and self-discipline, completely bypassing the misery and self-criticism that comes with the traditional grind.
So, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on today. Take a look at your daily tasks, your ambitions, your never-ending to-do lists. Are your goals genuinely aligned with your values and a growth mindset? Or have you fallen into the cultural trap of toxic grit, simply grinding yourself into the ground because you think you should? It might just be time to drop the sweaty, panting mess of the grind, tame that 800-pound gorilla with a little self-compassion, and start walking a much healthier, more meaningful path. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you redefine what true commitment looks like in your own life.